Imagine getting betrayed by your own wife. It's one of the most heartbreaking tragedy to befall a well-to-do man. Kindly hit the subscribe button before we proceed. Thanks. Chapter 1. The foundation cracks. The rain hammered against the guest house windows like angry fists, each drop echoing the chaos in my chest. I stared at the ceiling, listening to Sophie's quiet breathing from the bed across the room. At 17, she still had nightmares about the accident. 2 years later, and she'd still wake up screaming Mom and Dad's names. I was supposed to protect her. That's what I promised them at the funeral, standing over 2 closed caskets while Marcus handled the legal paperwork with his usual cold efficiency. "I'll take care of Sophie," I'd whispered to graves that couldn't hear me. "I won't let anything happen to her." Now, lying in my brother's guest house with a healing shoulder that ended my construction career, I wondered if I was failing them all over again. The main house loomed through our window, all glass and steel and success. Marcus had built his dream life. The mansion, the law practice, the beautiful wife. From the outside, it looked perfect. But I'd been living here for 3 months now, and perfect was starting to feel like a carefully constructed lie. My phone buzzed. A text from my old foreman. "Sorry Jake, position's been filled. Keep looking, brother." Another rejection. The injury had healed, but the job market hadn't. Construction companies didn't want to risk hiring someone with a recent shoulder surgery, even if the doctors cleared me. Workers' comp claims made employers nervous. I rolled over and checked the time. 11:47 p.m. The main house was dark except for one window, Marcus's home office. He'd been working late every night this week, preparing for some big case. The Sterling divorce, he'd mentioned. Millions at stake. That's when I saw the car. A sleek black BMW pulled into the circular driveway, headlights cutting through the rain. I sat up, confused. Marcus was in his office, and Vanessa's white Mercedes was already in the garage. Who was visiting this late? The driver's door opened, and a man in an expensive suit stepped out. Even through the rain and darkness, I recognized him. Richard Sterling, Marcus's client. The one going through the messy divorce. What was he doing here at midnight? I watched him walk to the front door, but instead of ringing the bell, he pulled out a key. A key to my brother's house. My stomach dropped as the pieces clicked together. The front door opened before he could use the key. Vanessa appeared in a silk robe, her blonde hair perfect despite the late hour. She pulled him inside quickly, glancing around nervously before closing the door. I sat frozen, my mind racing. There had to be an explanation. Maybe it was about the case. Maybe Marcus knew he was coming. Maybe. But deep down I knew. All those late client meetings. The expensive gifts that appeared when Marcus was out of town. The way Vanessa's phone was always face down on tables. The hushed conversations that stopped when I walked into rooms. My brother's wife was having an affair with his biggest client. I grabbed my phone and crept to the window. The guest house sat behind the main house, giving me a clear view of the pool area and the glass doors leading to the living room. If I was going to confront this, I needed proof. Marcus would never believe me without it. Through the rain-streaked glass, I could see them in the living room. Vanessa had dropped her robe. Sterling's hands were in her hair. They were kissing like the world was ending, like they'd been starving for each other. My hands shook as I started recording. This was my brother's wife. The woman he'd married 2 years ago in a ceremony that cost more than most people's houses. The woman he talked about like she hung the moon. They moved toward the pool house, a smaller building Marcus had converted into an entertainment space. I lost sight of them for a moment, then saw lights flicker on inside. The pool house had floor-to-ceiling windows facing the guest house. They weren't even trying to hide. I kept recording, my heart breaking with every second. Marcus didn't deserve this. He worked 18-hour days to give Vanessa everything she wanted. He'd bought her a real estate license, set her up with connections, supported her career, even though she barely worked. And this was how she repaid him. The video was damning. Vanessa and Sterling weren't just having sex, they were talking, planning something. I couldn't hear the words through the glass and rain, but their body language was intense, conspiratorial. This wasn't just an affair. This was something bigger. I recorded for 20 minutes before they finally separated. Sterling left through the back gate, avoiding the main driveway. Vanessa slipped back into the house like a ghost. Within minutes, the lights were off, and the mansion looked peaceful again. But I couldn't unsee what I'd witnessed. I couldn't unknow what I now knew. I looked over at Sophie, still sleeping peacefully. We'd been here 3 months, the longest stable period she'd had since the accident. She was finally doing well in school, making friends, feeling secure. Marcus had given us that security. And now I had to destroy it. Chapter 2, The Weight of Truth. I didn't sleep. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Vanessa's hands on Sterling's chest, heard Marcus talking about his amazing wife at dinner last week, remembered Sophie laughing at one of Vanessa's jokes. By morning, I'd made my decision. Marcus deserved to know. Whatever the consequences, he had a right to the truth about his marriage. Sophie was already up, getting ready for school. At 17, she looked so much like our mom it sometimes took my breath away. Same dark hair, same green eyes, same stubborn chin that meant she'd made up her mind about something. "You look terrible," she said, grabbing an apple from our mini fridge. "Did you sleep at all?" "Not much." I rubbed my eyes, trying to figure out how to handle this. Sophie adored Vanessa. They went shopping together, did their nails, talked about boys. Vanessa had become the older sister Sophie never had. This was going to destroy her too. "I need to talk to Marcus this morning," I said carefully. "About some family stuff." Sophie paused, apple halfway to her mouth. "What kind of family stuff? Is everything okay?" "I hope so." It wasn't a lie, exactly. I hoped everything would be okay eventually. But first, it was going to get much worse. After Sophie left for school, I sat in the guest house staring at my phone. The video was still there, clear as day. Vanessa and Sterling, betraying Marcus in his own home. I'd also taken screenshots of text messages I'd glimpsed on Vanessa's phone when she left it on the kitchen counter. Messages from R, with heart emojis and promises to handle everything soon. I had to do this right. Marcus was a lawyer. He'd want evidence, not accusations. He'd want facts, not emotions. At 9 a.m., I walked to the main house. Vanessa's car was gone, probably at one of her client meetings. Marcus would be in his office, preparing for court. I found him exactly where I expected, surrounded by legal briefs and coffee cups. He looked up when I knocked, and for a moment, I saw our father in his face. Same serious expression, same way of tilting his head when he was thinking. "Jake, what's up? You look like hell. We need to talk." I closed the office door behind me. "About Vanessa." His expression shifted immediately. "What about Vanessa?" I pulled out my phone, my hands trembling slightly. "Marcus, I need you to see something. And I need you to know that telling you this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. You're scaring me. What's going on?" I showed him the video. The color drained from his face as he watched. His jaw clenched tighter with each second. When it ended, he was silent for a long moment. "Where did you get this?" "I recorded it last night. From the guest house window." "You were spying on my wife?" The accusation hit like a slap. "I wasn't spying. I saw Sterling's car pull up at midnight and got suspicious." "Marcus, I'm sorry, but she's cheating on you. With your biggest client." He stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. "This could be doctored. Deepfake technology is incredibly sophisticated now." "Marcus, look at me." I waited until he turned around. "This is real. I saw them together. I have more evidence, text messages, photos of them together when you were out of town. This has been going on for months." "Text messages? How do you have her text messages?" "She left her phone on the counter a few times. I saw messages from someone named R with heart emojis talking about plans, about being careful until everything is ready." Marcus's face was stone. "So you've been snooping through my wife's private communications." "I've been trying to protect you." "Protect me?" He laughed bitterly. "By violating my wife's privacy? By recording her without consent? By making wild accusations about my marriage?" I stared at him in disbelief. "Wild accusations? Marcus, I have video evidence. You have a video that could be manipulated. You have glimpses of text messages that could be taken out of context. You have suspicions and assumptions." He sat back down, his lawyer mask firmly in place. "What you don't have is proof of an affair. I saw them having sex. You saw them in what appeared to be an intimate situation. But Richard is going through a difficult divorce. Vanessa has been counseling him, helping him through the emotional trauma. Physical comfort doesn't necessarily mean sexual infidelity." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Physical comfort? Marcus, they were naked. According to you. According to a video that could be fake and text messages you claim to have seen." He leaned forward. "Jake, I know you've been struggling since the accident. Losing mom and dad, losing your job, feeling dependent on me for the first time in your life. It's natural to feel resentful." "Resentful? What are you talking about? You've always been the independent one. the one who took care of everyone else. Now you're living in my guest house, unable to work, watching me succeed while you struggle. It's understandable that you might want to level the playing field. The words hit me like physical blows. You think I'm lying because I'm jealous? I think you're seeing what you want to see. I think you're so desperate to feel needed, to feel important, that you've convinced yourself my marriage is in trouble so you can be the hero who saves me. I stood up, my hands shaking with anger. That's not what this is about. Isn't it? You've been living here for 3 months, Jake. 3 months of watching Vanessa and me be happy while you're alone and unemployed. 3 months of feeling like a charity case. I'm not a charity case. Then prove it. Get a job. Get your own place. Stop looking for drama in my marriage to distract from your own problems. I stared at my brother, really looked at him. The man who'd held me when I cried after the funeral. Who'd driven 6 hours to the hospital when I got hurt. Who'd opened his home to Sophie and me without question. He was choosing to believe his wife over his own brother. Marcus, please. Just talk to her. Ask her about Sterling. Ask her about the late-night meetings. I'm not interrogating my wife based on your paranoid fantasies. They're not fantasies. Enough. He slammed his hand on the desk. I've heard enough. Vanessa told me this might happen. My blood went cold. What? She said you'd been acting strange lately. Making inappropriate comments. Looking at her in ways that made her uncomfortable. She was worried you might try something like this. That's not true. I never. She said you might try to break us up out of jealousy or resentment. She was right. The room spun around me. Vanessa had been planning this. She'd been setting me up, preparing Marcus for exactly this moment. Marcus, she's manipulating you. Can't you see that? What I see is my brother trying to destroy my marriage with lies and fake evidence. What I see is someone I trusted betraying that trust in the worst possible way. I'm trying to help you. No, you're trying to help yourself. And I won't stand for it. He stood up, his face cold and distant. I want you out. What? You and Sophie. I want you out of my house. Today. My heart stopped. Marcus, you can't be serious. Sophie's in school. She's finally stable. She's happy here. You should have thought about that before you decided to attack my wife. I'm not attacking her. I'm telling you the truth. Your truth. Your twisted, jealous version of reality. He walked to the door. You have until tonight to pack your things and leave. Where are we supposed to go? I don't have a job. I don't have money for a deposit. That's not my problem anymore. I followed him to the door, desperate. Marcus, please. Think about what you're doing. I'm your brother. Sophie is your sister. We're family. He turned around, and for a moment, I saw pain in his eyes. But it was quickly replaced by cold resolve. Family doesn't lie to each other. Family doesn't try to destroy each other's happiness. You're not my family anymore, Jake. You're just someone I used to know. The words shattered something inside me. I watched my brother walk away, leaving me standing in his office, surrounded by the wreckage of our relationship. I had tried to save him, and instead I had lost everything. Chapter 3: The Exile. I sat in Marcus's office for a long time after he left, staring at the family photo on his desk. It was from Sophie's 16th birthday last year. All 3 of us smiling at the camera, looking like we'd figured out how to be a family again after losing our parents. Now that family was broken, and I was the one who'd broken it. My phone buzzed. A text from Sophie. Staying late for drama club practice. Home by 6. Can we order pizza tonight? I stared at the message, my heart breaking all over again. How was I supposed to tell her we were homeless? How was I supposed to explain that her big brother had destroyed the only stable home she'd known since the accident? I walked back to the guest house in a daze. Everything looked the same. Sophie's textbooks on the table, my work boots by the door, the coffee maker we'd bought together last month. But it all felt different now, temporary, like we were already ghosts haunting someone else's life. I started packing mechanically. We didn't have much. We'd lost most of our belongings in the fire that destroyed our apartment 6 months ago. Everything we owned fit into 4 suitcases and a few boxes. As I folded Sophie's clothes, I found the framed photo she kept on her nightstand. It was from Christmas morning, just 4 months ago. Sophie was wearing the expensive sweater Vanessa had bought her, laughing at something Marcus had said. We all looked so happy, so much like a real family. Vanessa had been playing a role even then. Every smile, every kind gesture, every moment of seeming to care about Sophie, it had all been an act. She'd been planning this betrayal while buying my sister Christmas presents. The front door of the main house slammed, and I looked out to see Vanessa's Mercedes pulling into the driveway. She got out slowly, checking her phone, looking perfectly composed. Like she hadn't just destroyed 3 lives with her lies. I watched her walk to the front door, and something inside me snapped. I couldn't let her get away with this. I couldn't let her win without a fight. I grabbed my phone and walked to the main house. I found Vanessa in the kitchen, making herself a smoothie like it was any other day. "We need to talk," I said. She looked up, and for just a moment, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Fear, guilt, but it was quickly replaced by her usual perfect smile. "Jake, Marcus told me about your conversation this morning. I'm so sorry you're going through such a difficult time." "Cut the act, Vanessa. I know about Sterling." "I'm not sure what you mean." I pulled out my phone and showed her the video. This time, I watched her face carefully. The mask slipped for just a second, long enough for me to see the calculation behind her eyes. "That's quite a creative video," she said calmly. "Technology these days is amazing, isn't it? You can make anyone appear to be doing anything. It's not fake, and you know it. What I know is that you've been struggling with some very serious issues. Depression, resentment, inappropriate feelings toward me." She stepped closer, her voice soft and concerned. "Marcus and I have been worried about you." "Inappropriate feelings? I've never." "The way you look at me, Jake. The comments you make when Marcus isn't around. The way you accidentally walk in when I'm changing or showering." She shook her head sadly. "I tried to be understanding. I know you've been through trauma. But when you started making advances, that never happened." My voice was louder than I intended. "You're lying." "Am I? Or are you so desperate to justify your behavior that you've created this elaborate fantasy about me having an affair?" She pulled out her own phone. "I have text messages, Jake. Messages you sent me. Very inappropriate messages." My blood ran cold. "I never sent you any messages." She showed me the screen. There were messages from my number, messages I'd never sent. Crude, sexual messages that made my stomach turn. "How did you? You left your phone unlocked several times. It was easy enough to send myself a few messages and delete them from your sent folder." She smiled, and it was the coldest thing I'd ever seen. Insurance, you might say. I stared at her, finally understanding the depth of her manipulation. "You planned this. All of it." "I planned for every contingency, including a jealous, unstable brother-in-law who might become a problem." "Why? Why are you doing this to Marcus? He loves you." "Marcus is useful. His client list, his connections, his reputation, they're all very valuable. But not forever." She put her phone away. "Richard and I have been planning this for over a year. Marcus has been helping us more than he knows." "Helping you what?" "Transfer funds. Hide assets. Create paper trails that lead back to him instead of us." Her smile widened. "By the time we're done, Marcus will be facing federal charges for embezzlement and money laundering. Richard and I will be living very comfortably in a non-extradition country." The room spun around me. "You're framing him. I'm securing my future. Marcus was always going to be collateral damage. He's your husband. He's a means to an end. A very naive, trusting means to an end." She checked her watch. "Speaking of which, I need to make a call. Richard is expecting an update on our timeline." I grabbed her arm as she started to walk away. "I won't let you do this to him." She looked down at my hand on her arm, then back at my face. "You won't let me? Jake, you're about to be homeless and unemployed, with a teenage sister to support, and no one who believes a word you say. What exactly do you think you can do to stop me?" "I'll tell Marcus everything. About the money, about your plan." "With what proof?" "Your word against mine." She laughed. "I'm his beloved wife. You're the unstable brother who's been sexually harassing me and making up stories about affairs. Who do you think he'll believe?" She was right, and we both knew it. Marcus had already chosen her over me. He'd already decided I was lying. "Besides," she continued, "even if you could convince him, it's too late. The transfers are already complete. The evidence is already planted. Marcus's signature is on documents that will destroy him whether I'm here or not. Then why not just leave? Why keep up the charade? Because I need a few more weeks to tie up loose ends. And I need Marcus to stay focused on his work instead of asking inconvenient questions." She pulled her arm free. "Your little outburst this morning was actually perfect timing. Now Marcus is so angry at you that he won't listen to anything you say. You've made my job much easier." I felt sick. By trying to save Marcus, I'd actually helped her destroy him. There is one thing you could do, she said thoughtfully. One way you might be able to help your brother. What? Disappear. Take Sophie and go far away. Don't contact Marcus, don't try to warn him, don't interfere with my plans. Just vanish. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, I'll make sure Sophie pays the price too. My blood turned to ice. What are you talking about? Sophie's 17, Jake. Still a minor. Still vulnerable. It would be so easy for her to have an accident. Or maybe she'd just disappear one day, end up in a very bad situation with very bad people. Vanessa's voice was casual, like she was discussing the weather. You know how dangerous the world can be for a pretty young girl with no family to protect her. You're threatening my sister. I'm explaining your options. Disappear quietly, and Sophie stays safe. Keep trying to interfere with my plans, and she becomes another casualty. I wanted to kill her. The urge was so strong it scared me. But I also knew she meant every word. This woman had been planning Marcus's destruction for over a year. She'd manipulated him, framed me, and now she was threatening Sophie. And there was nothing I could do to stop her. You have until tonight to decide, she said. But remember, Marcus wants you gone anyway. I'm just giving you a reason to stay gone. She walked away, leaving me standing in the kitchen with the weight of an impossible choice. Save Marcus and risk Sophie's life, or save Sophie and let Marcus be destroyed. Either way, I was going to lose someone I loved. Chapter 4, The Longest Day. I spent the afternoon in a haze of panic and desperation. Every plan I came up with fell apart under scrutiny. Call the police? With what evidence? Vanessa had covered her tracks too well. Contact Marcus's law partners? They'd never believe me over her. Try to gather more evidence? I was being kicked out in hours. The worst part was knowing that Marcus was walking around completely unaware that his life was about to implode. He was probably in his office right now, working on cases, trusting his wife, believing I was the villain in this story. At 3:30, I got a text from Sophie. Drama practice canceled. Coming home early. Everything okay? Marcus seemed weird when I saw him at lunch. My heart sank. Sophie had seen Marcus at school. He sometimes ate lunch there when he had court nearby. What had he told her? Did she know we were being kicked out? I was still trying to figure out how to respond when I heard her key in the guest house door. Jake! She came in looking confused and worried. What's going on? Why are there suitcases everywhere? I looked at my little sister, the girl I'd raised for 2 years, the girl I'd promised our parents I'd protect, and felt my heart break all over again. We need to talk, sophomore. She sat down slowly, her green eyes wide with fear. Are we leaving? Did something happen? Marcus wants us to move out. What? Why? I thought everything was going great. We've been happy here. There was a disagreement. About Vanessa. Sophie's face went pale. What kind of disagreement? Jake, what did you do? The question hit like a knife. Even Sophie assumed I was the problem. I found out some things about Vanessa. Things Marcus didn't want to hear. What things? I looked at my sister's face and made a decision. She was 17, not 7. She deserved to know the truth, even if it hurt. She's having an affair. With one of Marcus's clients. I have proof, but Marcus doesn't believe me. Sophie stared at me for a long moment. That's impossible. Vanessa loves Marcus. She wouldn't do that. I saw them together, sophomore. I have video. Then show me. I hesitated. Did I really want to destroy Sophie's image of Vanessa? Did I want to shatter her faith in the woman who'd become like a sister to her? Show me, Jake. I pulled out my phone and played the video. Sophie watched in silence, her face growing paler with each second. When it ended, she was quiet for a long time. Maybe it's not what it looks like, she said finally. Maybe there's an explanation. That's what Marcus said. Because there has to be. Vanessa wouldn't do this. She's been so good to us. She helped me with my college applications. She took me shopping for homecoming. Sophie's voice broke. She said I was like the little sister she never had. I pulled Sophie into a hug as she started to cry. I know, sweetheart. I know this is hard. Where are we going to go? I finally have friends here. I'm doing well in school. I was going to try out for the spring musical. I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out. We always do. Can't you apologize? Can't you tell Marcus you were wrong? I wasn't wrong, sophomore. But if you say you were, maybe he'll let us stay. Maybe we can work this out. I held her tighter, wishing I could protect her from all of this. It's more complicated than that. How is it complicated? If Marcus wants an apology, give him one. If he wants you to admit you made a mistake, do it. Our home is more important than your pride. It's not about pride. It's about, I stopped. How could I explain about Vanessa's threats without terrifying her? How could I tell her that staying might put her in danger? It's about what? It's about doing what's right. Sophie pulled back to look at me. What's right is keeping our family together. What's right is not destroying Marcus's marriage because you think you saw something. I didn't think I saw something. I know what I saw. Then you're choosing to be right over being happy. You're choosing to prove a point over having a home. Her voice was getting louder, more desperate. You're choosing your ego over my future. Sophie, that's not fair. Isn't it? You've been taking care of me for 2 years, making all the decisions, being the responsible one. And now, when we finally have stability, when we finally have a real home, you're throwing it all away because you can't stand not being the hero of the story. Her words hit harder than Marcus's had, because part of me wondered if she was right. Was I so desperate to be needed, to be the protector, that I'd convinced myself of something that wasn't true? But then I remembered Vanessa's cold smile, her casual threats, her admission that she was framing Marcus. That hadn't been my imagination. I'm trying to protect Marcus, I said quietly. By destroying his marriage? By saving him from a woman who's going to destroy his life. According to you. According to a video that could be fake and suspicions that could be wrong. Sophie stood up, pacing the small room. What if you're mistaken, Jake? What if you're seeing what you want to see because you're jealous or resentful or just broken from everything we've been through? I'm not broken. Aren't you? We lost our parents. You lost your job. You've been struggling with depression and anger and feeling like a failure. Maybe this is just your mind's way of creating a crisis you can solve because you can't solve the real problems in your life. I stared at my sister, seeing Marcus's arguments coming out of her mouth. Had Vanessa gotten to her too? Or was Sophie just desperate to keep the life she'd built here? I know what I saw, I said again. Then prove it. Show Marcus more evidence. Get him to confront Vanessa. Make her confess. I tried. He won't listen. Then try harder. Fight for our family instead of just giving up. I'm not giving up. I'm being realistic. Marcus has made his choice. Then change his mind. You're his brother. You raised me when he couldn't. You've been there for him his whole life. Make him remember that. I wanted to tell her about Vanessa's threats, about the danger we might be in if we stayed. But I also knew that would only make Sophie more determined to fight. She'd want to go to the police, to confront Vanessa herself, to do something that might get her hurt. It's too late, sophomore. We have to go. No. She crossed her arms, her chin set in that stubborn way that reminded me so much of our mother. I'm not leaving. This is my home. These are my friends. This is my school. I'm not starting over again because you can't admit you might be wrong. Sophie, you're 17. You don't get to make this decision. I'm almost 18, and I can choose where I want to live. Not legally. Not yet. Then I'll go to Marcus. I'll tell him I want to stay. I'll tell him you're having some kind of breakdown and I need stability. The threat hit me like a physical blow. You wouldn't. I will if I have to. I'm not losing everything again, Jake. I can't. I looked at my sister, really looked at her. She was scared and desperate, and clinging to the first stable thing she'd found since our parents died. She wasn't thinking clearly, wasn't seeing the bigger picture. But she was also right about one thing. I was asking her to give up everything she'd built here based on my word alone. I was asking her to trust me over her own eyes, her own experiences with Vanessa. Give me until tonight, I said finally. Let me try one more time to make Marcus understand. How? I don't know yet. But if I can't convince him by the time he gets home, we'll go. No arguments, no fighting. We'll pack up and leave. Sophie studied my face for a long moment. And if you do convince him? If he believes you about Vanessa? Then we stay, and we help him through whatever comes next. She nodded slowly. Okay. But Jake, if you're wrong about this, if you're destroying our family for nothing, I'll never forgive you. The words hung in the air between us like a death sentence. I was risking everything. My relationship with Marcus, my home, Sophie's future, maybe even Sophie's safety. All on the belief that I was right about Vanessa. But what choice did I have? If I was right, and I did nothing, Marcus would be destroyed anyway. At least this way, I had a chance to save him. Even if it cost me everything else. Chapter 5, The Gathering Storm. I spent the next few hours trying to figure out how to reach Marcus. He wasn't answering his phone, and his secretary said he was in depositions all afternoon. I considered going to his office, but security wouldn't let me up without an appointment. By 5 p.m., I was desperate. Sophie was in her room, packing her things with angry, jerky movements that made her feelings clear. Every few minutes, she'd look at me with a mixture of hope and accusation, waiting for me to fix this. That's when I remembered something. Marcus always stopped at Brennan's bar on Friday evenings after difficult days. It was a tradition from his law school days. One drink to decompress before going home. If today wasn't a difficult day, I didn't know what was. I found him there at 5:30, sitting alone at the end of the bar with a whiskey in front of him. He looked older than his 32 years, tired in a way that went deeper than just work stress. Marcus. He looked up, and for a moment, I saw my big brother instead of the cold stranger from this morning. But the moment passed quickly. I told you to be gone by tonight. I know. I will be. But first, I need you to listen to me. Really listen. Jake, we've been through this. No, we haven't. This morning you heard what you wanted to hear. You heard jealousy and resentment and lies. But you didn't hear the truth. I sat down next to him, ignoring his obvious discomfort. Do you remember when Dad had his heart attack? You were in your second year of law school, and I was working construction to help pay your tuition. What does that have to do with anything? You came home that night and found me crying in the garage. You asked what was wrong, and I told you I was fine. Do you remember what you said? Marcus was quiet for a moment. I said you were a terrible liar. You said I was a terrible liar, and that you'd always be able to tell when I was hiding something from you. You said brothers know each other too well to fake it. That was different. Was it? Look at me, Marcus. Really look at me. Am I lying to you now? He turned to face me, and I saw him studying my face the way he used to when we were kids, the way he'd look at me when he was trying to figure out if I'd broken something or eaten the last cookie. I don't know, he said finally. I don't know anything anymore. You know me. You've known me for 25 years. Have I ever lied to you about something important? No, but have I ever tried to hurt you? Ever been jealous of your success? No, but people change. Trauma changes people. It does. But not like this. Not into someone who would make up stories about your wife having an affair. I leaned closer. Marcus, I swear on Mom and Dad's graves. Marcus, I swear on Mom and Dad's graves that everything I told you this morning is true. Vanessa is having an affair with Richard Sterling, and it's not just about sex. They're planning something that's going to destroy you. Marcus stared into his whiskey glass. What kind of something? I don't know all the details. But Vanessa said they've been moving money, hiding assets, creating paper trails that lead back to you instead of them. She said you'd be facing federal charges. That's impossible. I don't handle client funds directly. Everything goes through the firm's escrow accounts. What about the Sterling case? You've been working on it personally, right? Not through the usual channels. Marcus looked up sharply. How do you know that? Because you've been working late every night for weeks. Because you mentioned it was worth millions in fees. Because Richard Sterling has a key to your house. He doesn't have a key to my house. Then how did he get in last night at midnight without ringing the bell? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. I could see him thinking, processing, trying to reconcile what I was telling him with what he believed about his wife. Even if what you're saying is true, he said finally, even if Vanessa is having an affair, that doesn't mean she's involved in some elaborate financial conspiracy. Doesn't it? Think about it, Marcus. She married you 2 years ago, right when your practice was taking off. Right when you started handling high-profile divorce cases with serious money involved. She encouraged you to take on Sterling as a client, didn't she? She introduced us. At a charity event. And she's been very interested in your work lately, hasn't she? Asking about cases, wanting to know about clients, offering to help with research. Marcus's face was getting paler. She said she wanted to understand my work better. To be supportive. Marcus, she's a real estate agent. What does she know about divorce law? She's smart. She picks things up quickly. Or she's been feeding information to Sterling. Think about it. How many times has she been alone in your office? How many times has she had access to your files, your computer, your client information? She couldn't. But I could see the doubt creeping into his eyes. When did you last check the Sterling account? When did you last verify that all the money transfers were legitimate? I check everything. I'm meticulous about, he stopped. I haven't checked in 2 weeks. Vanessa said she'd handle the routine transfers while I focused on the court filings. My heart sank. She's been handling your client's money? Just the routine stuff. moving funds between accounts, paying bills, handling the day-to-day financial management. She has a real estate license. She understands money management. Marcus, she's not licensed to handle legal client funds. That's a violation of bar ethics, even if she's doing it legitimately. She's my wife. She's helping me manage my caseload. She's stealing from you. And when the money goes missing, guess whose name is on all the authorization forms? Marcus stood up abruptly, pulling out his phone. I need to check the accounts. Now. Right now. He was already dialing. This is Marcus Chin. I need to verify the current balance on the Sterling escrow account. What do you mean it's been closed? When? By whose authorization? I watched my brother's face go white as he listened to the voice on the other end of the phone. That's impossible. I never authorized a closure. What do you mean my wife had power of attorney? I never signed any power of attorney documents. He hung up and stared at me. $3 million. Gone. Transferred out yesterday to an offshore account. With your authorization? According to the bank, yes. With documents bearing my signature and witnessed by Vanessa. He sat back down heavily. Jake, if this is real, if she's really done this, you'll be disbarred at minimum. Probably facing criminal charges. I could go to prison. That's what she's counting on. While you're fighting federal charges, she and Sterling disappear with the money. Marcus buried his face in his hands. How could I have been so stupid? How could I not have seen this? Because you loved her. Because you trusted her. Because she's very good at what she does. I gave her access to everything. My office, my files, my clients. I thought I was being a good husband, including her in my work. You were being a good husband to a woman who was never really your wife. He looked up at me, and I saw tears in his eyes. What am I going to do? How do I fix this? I don't know. But we'll figure it out together. Jake, I kicked you out. I chose her over you. I called you a liar and a jealous. You're my brother. That's all that matters. Marcus reached over and grabbed my hand. I'm so sorry. I should have listened to you. I should have trusted you. You were protecting your marriage. I understand. I was protecting a lie. He squeezed my hand tighter. Can you forgive me? There's nothing to forgive. But Marcus, we need to move fast. If Vanessa realizes you know the truth, she'll disappear tonight. What do you suggest? We go home. We act normal. We don't let her know anything has changed until we figure out how to stop her. Marcus nodded, then paused. Jake, there's something else. Something I need to tell you. What? This morning, after our fight, Vanessa suggested that maybe you and Sophie should move out permanently. She said it might be better for everyone if you found your own place. She's been planning this for a while. But here's the thing, she also suggested that maybe Sophie should stay. She said Sophie was like family to her, and it wasn't fair to disrupt her education because of our disagreement. My blood ran cold. She wanted to separate me from Sophie? She said Sophie could stay in the guest house, and you could find your own place. She said it would give you space to work through your issues while keeping Sophie stable. I thought about Vanessa's threats, her casual mention of how dangerous the world could be for a pretty young girl with no family to protect her. She hadn't just been threatening Sophie's safety. She'd been planning to isolate her. Marcus, we need to get home. Now. Why? What's wrong? Sophie's alone with Vanessa. And if Vanessa realizes her plan is falling apart. I didn't finish the sentence. I didn't need to. Marcus was already throwing money on the bar and heading for the door. We had to get to Sophie before Vanessa decided she was a liability. Chapter 6, The Race Home. Marcus drove like a man possessed, weaving through Friday evening traffic while I tried calling Sophie's phone. It went straight to voicemail every time. Maybe her phone died, Marcus said, but I could hear the worry in his voice. Or maybe Vanessa took it. We pulled into the driveway at 6:45. Vanessa's car was there, but the house looked dark except for a few lights in the kitchen. The guest house was completely dark. Sophie should be home by now, I said, my heart pounding. We walked to the front door together. Marcus used his key, and we stepped into the foyer quietly. I could hear voices coming from the kitchen, Vanessa's laugh, light and musical, and Sophie's voice responding. They're just talking, Marcus whispered. But something felt wrong. Sophie's voice sounded strained, forced. And why were all the other lights off? We crept toward the kitchen, staying in the shadows. Through the doorway, I could see Vanessa sitting at the island with Sophie across from her. There were 2 cups of tea on the counter, but only Vanessa was drinking. I know this is hard to understand, Vanessa was saying. But sometimes people we love aren't who we think they are. Jake wouldn't lie about something like this, Sophie said. Her voice was slurred slightly, like she was having trouble forming words. Wouldn't he? Think about it, sweetie. He's been struggling so much since the accident. Depression, anger, feeling like a failure. Sometimes when people are in that much pain, they lash out at the people closest to them. But the video can be faked. Technology these days is incredible. You can make anyone appear to be doing anything. I grabbed Marcus's arm and pointed to Sophie. She was swaying slightly in her chair, her eyes unfocused. Something was very wrong. What did you put in her tea? I whispered. Marcus's face went white. He started to move forward, but I held him back. We needed to be smart about this. I just want to help you understand, Vanessa continued. Jake is sick, Sophie. He needs professional help. But in the meantime, you need to be somewhere safe. I want to wait for Jake, Sophie said, her words getting more slurred. I want to talk to him. Jake isn't coming back, sweetie. Marcus made that very clear. But don't worry, I'll take care of you. We'll go somewhere quiet, somewhere you can rest and think clearly about what's best for your future. I don't want to go anywhere. I want to stay here. That's not possible anymore. But I promise, where we're going will be much better. You'll see. Vanessa stood up and walked around the island toward Sophie. That's when I saw the syringe in her hand. I didn't think. I just moved. Get away from her. I burst into the kitchen with Marcus right behind me. Vanessa spun around, the syringe still in her hand. For a moment, her perfect mask slipped completely, and I saw the cold calculation underneath. Jake! Marcus! You're home early. She quickly hid the syringe behind her back. Sophie and I were just having a little chat about her future. What did you give her? I demanded, moving toward my sister. Just some tea. She was upset about having to move, so I made her some chamomile to help her relax. Sophie looked up at me with unfocused eyes. Jake? I feel weird. Really tired. It's okay, sophomore. I'm here now. I helped her stand, but she was unsteady on her feet. Whatever Vanessa had given her was strong. Marcus, Vanessa said, her voice taking on a hurt tone. I thought we agreed that Jake needed to leave. Why did you bring him back? Marcus stepped forward, his face hard. We need to talk, Vanessa. About Richard Sterling. About the missing money. About what you've really been doing. I saw the moment Vanessa realized her game was over. The mask didn't just slip, it shattered completely. The woman who stood before us now was nothing like the loving wife and sister-in-law we'd thought we knew. I see, she said calmly. You've been checking up on me. $3 million, Vanessa. Gone from the Sterling account. With my forged signature. Forged is such an ugly word. I prefer to think of it as collaborative. You're going to prison. Am I? She smiled, and it was terrifying. I don't think so. You see, Marcus, you're the one whose name is on all the documents. You're the one who gave me access to everything. You're the one who's going to take the fall for this. Not if I turn you in first. With what proof? My word against yours? A grieving widow whose husband was embezzling money and became violent when she discovered his crimes. Grieving widow? Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. Oh yes. You see, this was always going to end with your death, Marcus. A tragic suicide brought on by the shame of being caught stealing from your clients. Very sad. Very believable. She pulled the syringe from behind her back. The same thing I gave Sophie, actually. A very peaceful way to go. You'll just fall asleep and never wake up. You're insane, I said, pulling Sophie closer to me. I'm practical. Marcus was always going to be a loose end. I just moved up the timeline because of your interference. She looked at me with genuine annoyance. You really have been quite inconvenient, Jake. But don't worry, your death will be explained too. Grief over your brother's suicide, unable to cope with being responsible for Sophie alone. Very tragic. And Sophie? Sophie will be fine. She'll go into the foster system, and I'll be long gone before anyone thinks to look for me. Vanessa's smile widened. Richard is waiting for me in Mexico. We'll have a very comfortable life together. You won't get away with this, Marcus said. Won't I? Who's going to stop me? You'll all be dead. The money will be gone. And I'll be a grieving widow who barely escaped her husband's violent breakdown. She started moving toward us, the syringe held like a weapon. Now, who wants to go first? That's when Sophie surprised us all. Despite being drugged, despite barely being able to stand, she grabbed the heavy ceramic fruit bowl from the counter and hurled it at Vanessa's head. Vanessa ducked, and the bowl shattered against the wall behind her. But the distraction was enough. Marcus lunged forward and grabbed her wrist, trying to get the syringe away from her. They struggled, crashing into the counter, knocking over chairs. Vanessa was stronger than she looked, and she was fighting like her life depended on it. "Call 911. Marcus shouted as he wrestled with his wife. I pulled out my phone, but Vanessa broke free from Marcus and came at me with the syringe. I pushed Sophie behind me and grabbed a kitchen knife from the counter. "Stay back. You're just delaying the inevitable," Vanessa panted. "Even if you call the police, what are you going to tell them? That I'm trying to kill you? Based on what evidence? Based on the $3 million you stole. That Marcus stole. That's what the evidence shows. We have the video of you with Sterling. A fake video created by a jealous, unstable man. She was right, and we all knew it. Even with everything we'd discovered, it would be our word against hers. And she'd been planning this for over a year, covering her tracks, creating false evidence. But you know what?" she continued, circling us like a predator. "I don't need to kill all of you. I just need to kill Marcus. Once he's dead, the investigation will focus on his crimes. No one will look too closely at the grieving widow." She feinted toward me, then spun and lunged at Marcus with the syringe. He tried to dodge, but she was fast. The needle caught him in the shoulder, and I watched in horror as she pressed the plunger. "No!" I tackled her, and we went down hard on the kitchen floor. The syringe skittered away across the tiles. Marcus was already swaying, his eyes unfocused. "Jake! I can't. I feel. Fight it, Marcus. Stay awake." But he was collapsing, the drug working fast in his system. Sophie was barely conscious, leaning against the counter for support. And Vanessa was getting back to her feet, reaching for another syringe she'd pulled from her purse. "2 down," she said. "1 to go." That's when I heard the sirens. Vanessa heard them too. Her face went white as the sound got closer. "That's impossible. You didn't have time to call." I smiled grimly. "I didn't need to. I called them before we came in. Told them there was a domestic disturbance at this address." It was a lie, but she didn't know that. The sirens were probably for something else entirely, but they were getting closer. Vanessa looked around frantically, calculating her options. Marcus was unconscious on the floor. Sophie was barely standing. I was between her and the door. "This isn't over," she said. "Even if they arrest me, I'll find a way to make you pay for ruining everything." "I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped you from destroying my family." The sirens were right outside now. Red and blue lights flashed through the kitchen windows. Vanessa made one last desperate move, lunging for the back door. But her foot slipped on the spilled tea, and she went down hard, her head hitting the corner of the counter with a sickening crack. She lay still, blood pooling beneath her blonde hair. I knelt beside Marcus, checking his pulse. It was weak but steady. "Hang on, brother. Help is here." The front door burst open, and paramedics rushed in, followed by police officers. The kitchen filled with people and noise and urgent voices. "We need 2 ambulances," someone shouted. "Possible drug overdose and head trauma." As the paramedics worked on Marcus and Sophie, a police officer approached me. "Sir, can you tell me what happened here?" I looked around the kitchen, at my unconscious brother, my drugged sister, my sister-in-law bleeding on the floor, and realized I had no idea how to explain any of this. "It's complicated," I said. Chapter 7. The truth comes out. The next few hours were a blur of hospitals, police stations, and questions I wasn't sure how to answer. Marcus and Sophie were both stable. The drug Vanessa had used was a powerful sedative, but not fatal in the doses she'd given them. Vanessa herself was in critical condition with a severe head injury. I sat in the police station at 2 a.m., across from Detective Sarah Martinez, trying to explain the most insane night of my life. "Let me see if I understand this correctly," she said, reviewing her notes. "You discovered your sister-in-law was having an affair, confronted your brother about it, got kicked out of the house, then returned to find her trying to drug your family? That's the simplified version, yes. And you believe she was involved in embezzling money from your brother's law practice? $3 million from the Sterling account. It's all documented." Detective Martinez looked skeptical. "Mr. Chun, I have to ask, have you been under any unusual stress lately? Any financial pressures, relationship issues, substance abuse problems?" I laughed bitterly. "You think I'm making this up? I think this is a very complicated situation with a lot of moving parts. Your brother's wife is in a coma, there's missing money, and you're claiming she was trying to murder your family. That's a serious accusation. Check the bank records. Check the forged documents. Check her phone for communications with Richard Sterling. We're doing all of that. But in the meantime, I need to understand your state of mind. You've been unemployed for several months, living in your brother's guest house, dealing with the loss of your parents. So you think I snapped and attacked my sister-in-law? I think you've been under a lot of pressure, and sometimes people in that situation see threats that aren't really there. I stared at her across the metal table. Even with everything that had happened, even with the evidence, she was looking at me like I was the unstable one. What about the video? The one showing Vanessa with Sterling? We'll have our tech team analyze it. But you should know that video evidence can be manipulated, especially by someone with the right software and motivation. And the syringes? The drugs in Sophie's system. Mrs. Chen claims she was trying to help your sister calm down after a traumatic evening. She says you and your brother came home in an agitated state and attacked her when she tried to protect Sophie. My heart sank. She's awake. She regained consciousness an hour ago. She's given us her version of events. Which is? Detective Martinez consulted her notes. She says you've been making unwanted advances toward her for months. That you became increasingly unstable and paranoid, accusing her of various improprieties. That tonight you convinced your brother to confront her about a fabricated affair, and when she tried to defend herself, you both became violent. That's insane. Is it? Because from where I'm sitting, you're an unemployed man with a history of depression who's been living off his successful brother's charity. You have motive to resent both your brother and his wife. You have the technical skills to create fake videos. And you have a pattern of making accusations that no one else can corroborate. I felt the walls closing in around me. Vanessa had planned for this too. Even injured and in a hospital bed, she was still manipulating the situation. What about Marcus? What does he say? Your brother is still unconscious. The doctors aren't sure when he'll wake up. And Sophie, your sister is awake, but she's confused and disoriented. She remembers drinking tea with Mrs. Chun, then everything gets fuzzy. She can't corroborate your version of events. I put my head in my hands. Vanessa was going to win. Even after everything, she was going to destroy my family and walk away free. However, Detective Martinez continued, there are some inconsistencies in Mrs. Chen's story that we're investigating. I looked up. What kind of inconsistencies? The financial irregularities you mentioned, for one. We've confirmed that $3 million was transferred out of your brother's client account yesterday, and the authorization documents do appear to have some questionable signatures. Forged signatures. Possibly. We're having them analyzed by a handwriting expert. She leaned forward. We've also been in contact with Richard Sterling. My heart jumped. What did he say? That's where it gets interesting. Mr. Sterling claims he's been in Europe for the past 2 weeks on business. He has hotel receipts, flight records, and witnesses to prove it. That's impossible. I saw him at the house last night. Are you sure it was him? It was dark, it was raining, you were watching from a distance. I thought back to the night before. The man in the expensive suit, walking to the front door with a key. I'd assumed it was Sterling because of the context, because of what I'd suspected about the affair. But had I actually seen his face clearly? If it wasn't Sterling, I said slowly, then who was it? That's what we're trying to figure out. Mrs. Chen claims she was alone all evening, that no one visited the house. But I have video of a man whose face isn't clearly visible having intimate relations with a woman who could be anyone. The video is too dark and grainy to make positive identifications. I felt like I was losing my mind. So you think I made up the whole thing? I think you saw something that night, but maybe not what you thought you saw. Maybe Mrs. Chen was with someone but not Sterling. Maybe the financial crimes are real, but Mrs. Chen isn't involved. Maybe there's a third party we haven't identified yet. Or maybe Vanessa is lying about everything and you're letting her manipulate you the same way she manipulated Marcus. Detective Martinez studied my face for a long moment. Mr. Chen, I'm going to be honest with you. Right now, the evidence is contradictory. We have financial crimes that may or may not involve Mrs. Chen. We have your accusations of an affair that may or may not be true. We have a violent confrontation that may or may not have been self-defense. So what happens now? Now we investigate. We analyze the evidence, we interview witnesses, we follow the money trail. And we see what the truth really is. And in the meantime, you're free to go. But don't leave town. We may have more questions. I stood up, feeling exhausted and defeated. Can I see Marcus? And Sophie? Your sister, yes. Your brother is still in the ICU, family only. I am family. According to Mrs. Chun, your brother was planning to file a restraining order against you. Until he wakes up and can speak for himself, we have to honor his wife's wishes as his next of kin. The words hit me like a physical blow. Vanessa was still controlling everything, even from a hospital bed. She was keeping me away from Marcus when he was most vulnerable, making sure I couldn't tell him what had really happened. This is exactly what she wants, I said desperately. She's isolating Marcus, controlling the narrative, making sure no one can contradict her story. Mr. Chun, I understand you're frustrated. But right now, Mrs. Chun is the victim of a serious assault. Until we can prove otherwise, we have to treat her as such. I walked out of the police station into the gray dawn, feeling more alone than I'd ever felt in my life. My brother was unconscious and unreachable. My sister was confused and traumatized. And the woman who'd tried to destroy us all was being treated as the victim. But I wasn't giving up. Not yet. If the police wouldn't believe me, I'd have to find the proof myself. I'd have to figure out who the real man in the video was, trace the money trail, and expose Vanessa's lies before she could complete her plan. Because even injured, even in a hospital bed, I knew she wasn't done. This was just another setback in her game, another obstacle to overcome. And I was the only one left who could stop her. Chapter 8, Digging Deeper. I spent the morning at the hospital with Sophie, who was slowly recovering from whatever Vanessa had drugged her with. She remembered fragments of the evening, drinking tea, feeling dizzy, Vanessa talking about taking her somewhere safe. "I'm sorry I didn't believe you," she said, holding my hand as we sat in her hospital room. "About Vanessa. About everything. You couldn't have known. She fooled all of us. But you saw through her. You tried to warn Marcus, and we both turned against you. You were protecting the life you'd built here. I understand." Sophie squeezed my hand tighter. "What's going to happen now? Where are we going to live?" I didn't have an answer. Marcus's house was a crime scene. We had no money, no job prospects, and now we were caught up in a criminal investigation that could drag on for months. "We'll figure it out," I said, the same words I'd been saying for 2 years. "We always do." But privately, I was terrified. If Vanessa succeeded in framing Marcus for embezzlement, if she convinced everyone that I was an unstable liar, we'd lose everything. Marcus would go to prison, Sophie would end up in foster care, and I'd be left with nothing but the knowledge that I'd failed to protect my family. After Sophie fell asleep, I went to the hospital cafeteria and called Marcus's law partner, David Kim. If anyone could help me understand the financial side of this mess, it would be him. "Jake. Jesus, I heard about what happened. How's Marcus?" "Still unconscious." "David, I need to ask you about the Sterling case. I can't discuss client matters, you know that. $3 million is missing from the escrow account. Marcus didn't take it." There was a long pause. "How do you know about that?" "Because I'm the one who discovered it." "David, Vanessa has been manipulating Marcus's cases, forging documents, stealing money. She's been planning this for over a year." "That's a serious accusation, Jake. Do you have proof?" "I'm working on it. But I need to understand how she could have accessed the accounts. Marcus said she had power of attorney, but he never signed those documents." "Actually, he did. I witnessed the signature myself about 6 months ago." My heart sank. "You're sure?" "Positive. Marcus said Vanessa was going to help him with administrative tasks while he focused on court work. It seemed reasonable. She has a real estate license. She understands financial transactions." "Did you actually see him sign the documents?" "Well, no. He brought them to me already signed and asked me to witness and notarize them. But it was definitely his signature." "David, what if those documents were forged? What if Vanessa brought them to you with fake signatures?" Another pause. "That would make me an unwitting accomplice to fraud. It would make you a victim, just like Marcus. Can you pull those documents? Have them analyzed?" Yes, I suppose I could do that. But Jake, if you're wrong about this, if Marcus really did authorize those transfers, then he's guilty of embezzlement, and we're all screwed. But if I'm right, then Vanessa has been using you and Marcus to legitimize her crimes. I'll look into it. But Jake, be careful. If Vanessa really is as dangerous as you think, you could be putting yourself at risk by investigating her. After I hung up, I sat in the cafeteria thinking about what David had said. Vanessa had been planning this for at least 6 months, probably longer. She'd systematically gained access to Marcus's practice, his clients, his financial accounts. She'd built a web of false evidence that would implicate him while protecting herself. But she'd made one mistake. She tried to kill us instead of just disappearing with the money. That desperation, that need to tie up loose ends, suggested she was working under some kind of deadline. I pulled out my phone and did something I probably shouldn't have done. I called Richard Sterling. Sterling Residence. Mr. Sterling? This is Jake Chen, Marcus Chen's brother. Oh, I heard about what happened. How is Marcus? Still unconscious. Mr. Sterling, I need to ask you some questions about your relationship with my brother's wife. I'm sorry, what? Vanessa. My brother's wife. You've been having an affair with her. That's absolutely not true. I've never had any inappropriate contact with Mrs. Chen. But you know her. Of course I know her. She's married to my attorney. We've met at social functions, charity events, that sort of thing. When did you last see her? Let me think. It was probably at the Hartwell Foundation Gala 3 weeks ago. Marcus introduced us. We chatted briefly about the real estate market. You haven't been to their house recently? You don't have a key. A key to Marcus's house? Why would I have that? I could hear genuine confusion in his voice. Either Sterling was an incredible actor, or he really didn't know what I was talking about. Mr. Sterling, are you aware that $3 million is missing from your divorce settlement account? What? That's impossible. I just spoke to Marcus yesterday about the final transfers. You spoke to Marcus yesterday? Well, not directly. His wife called me. She said Marcus was in court, but wanted to confirm the final account details before closing everything out. My blood ran cold. What did you tell her? Just the account numbers, the final amounts to be distributed. Standard information. She said she was helping Marcus with the administrative work. Mr. Sterling, that money is gone. Transferred to an offshore account yesterday afternoon. That can't be right. Marcus wouldn't. He's the most ethical lawyer I know. Marcus didn't take your money. His wife did. And she's been planning it for months. There was a long silence. Are you saying Vanessa stole my money? I'm saying she's been using Marcus's practice to steal from multiple clients, and you're just the biggest target. But why? She's married to a successful lawyer. She has everything she could want. Because she was never really married to him. She was running a long con, and Marcus was the mark. This is insane. I need to call my other attorney, have him check all the accounts. Do that. And Mr. Sterling? If I'm right about this, you're going to want to cooperate with the police investigation. Because Vanessa isn't working alone. After I hung up, I sat back and tried to piece together what I'd learned. Sterling seemed genuinely surprised about the affair allegations and the missing money. Either he was innocent, or he was a much better actor than I'd given him credit for. But if Sterling wasn't Vanessa's partner, then who was? Who was the man I'd seen at the house that night? Who was helping her steal millions of dollars and frame Marcus for the crimes? I was still thinking about it when my phone rang. It was Detective John. Mr. Chen? We need you to come back to the station. We've found something you need to see. What kind of something? Security footage from a traffic camera near your brother's house. From last night. My heart started racing. What does it show? A man leaving the property around 1 a.m. And it's not Richard Sterling. Chapter 9, The Real Conspiracy. The security footage was grainy and dark, but clear enough to see a man in an expensive suit leaving Marcus's property through the back gate at 12:47 a.m. He walked to a black BMW parked on the street behind the house, the same car I'd seen in the driveway. Can you identify him? Detective Martinez asked. I studied the screen, but the man's face was turned away from the camera. I can't see his face clearly, but that's definitely the car I saw. We ran the license plate. The car is registered to a company called Meridian Holdings. Never heard of it. Neither had we until we started digging. Meridian Holdings is a shell company registered in Delaware. And guess who's listed as the primary contact? She slid a document across the table. I read the name and felt my world shift. David Kim. Your brother's law partner. The same man who witnessed the power of attorney documents that gave Vanessa access to the client accounts. I stared at the paper, my mind racing. David's been working with Vanessa? It looks that way. We've been analyzing the financial records, and there's a pattern of suspicious transfers going back 8 months. Always authorized by documents that David witnessed, always involving clients that Vanessa had contact with. But I just talked to him this morning. He seemed genuinely surprised about the missing money. Maybe he's a good actor. Or maybe he's been compartmentalized, only knowing his piece of the operation. What's his piece? Legitimizing the fraud. As Marcus's partner, David has the authority to witness and notarize legal documents. If Vanessa brought him forged papers with fake signatures, his notarization would make them legally binding. I thought about my conversation with David that morning. His surprise when I mentioned the missing money, his willingness to help investigate the documents. Either he was innocent and being used, or he was playing a very deep game. There's more, Detective Martinez continued. We found communications between David Kim and Vanessa going back over a year. Text messages, emails, even some hotel receipts. She showed me printouts of text conversations that made my stomach turn. David and Vanessa weren't just business partners, they were lovers. The messages were intimate, passionate, and full of references to their plan and their future together. So Sterling was never involved? Doesn't look like it. We think Vanessa used Sterling's name as misdirection. If anyone got suspicious about her activities, they'd look at the obvious suspect, the wealthy client going through a messy divorce. But I saw her with someone that night. In the pool house. You saw her with David Kim. In the dark, from a distance, you assumed it was Sterling because that's what made sense based on what you knew. I felt sick. David had been at our house dozens of times over the past few months. He'd eaten dinner with us, played cards with Sophie, talked about cases with Marcus. And the whole time, he'd been planning to destroy my brother's life. How long have they been planning this? Based on the communications we've found, at least 18 months. Vanessa targeted Marcus specifically because of his client base and his trusting nature. David provided the inside access and legal legitimacy they needed. And Marcus never suspected? Why would he? David was his partner, his friend. Vanessa was his wife. He trusted them both completely. I thought about all the times David had encouraged Marcus to give Vanessa more access to the practice. All the times he'd praised her intelligence and business sense. All the times he'd suggested that Marcus was lucky to have such a supportive wife. What happens now? Now we arrest David Kim and charge him with conspiracy to commit fraud, embezzlement, and attempted murder. Attempted murder? The drugs found in your sister's system weren't just sedatives. In higher doses, they can cause respiratory failure. If you hadn't interrupted when you did, Sophie could have died. The words hit me like a physical blow. They hadn't just been planning to frame Marcus. They'd been planning to kill all of us. What about Vanessa? She's still in critical condition, but when she recovers, she'll face the same charges. Plus assault with a deadly weapon for attacking you with the syringe. Will Marcus be cleared? The evidence strongly suggests he was a victim, not a perpetrator. But it'll take time to sort through all the financial records and determine exactly what was stolen and how. I felt a mixture of relief and rage. Relief that Marcus would be vindicated. Rage that it had taken this long for anyone to believe me. Can I see him now? Marcus. Yes. Mrs. Chun is no longer considered his next of kin, given the circumstances. You and Sophie are his closest family. I drove to the hospital with my hands shaking. Marcus was awake when I got to his room, staring at the ceiling with a confused expression. Jake. His voice was hoarse from the breathing tube they'd removed that morning. I'm here, brother. What happened? I remember being in the kitchen with Vanessa, and then nothing. I sat down next to his bed and told him everything. About David's betrayal, about the real scope of Vanessa's plan, about how close we'd all come to dying. Marcus listened in silence, his face growing paler with each revelation. David, he said finally. My partner. My friend. I'm sorry, Marcus. 18 months. They were planning this for 18 months. He closed his eyes. How could I have been so blind? Because you trusted them. Because you're a good person who assumes other people are good too. I gave them everything. Access to my clients, my accounts, my home. I let them into my life, into our family. You couldn't have known. Couldn't I? Were there signs I missed? Things I should have seen. I thought about it. Maybe. But even if there were, you were being manipulated by experts. They knew exactly how to play you. Marcus opened his eyes and looked at me. You saw it though. You tried to warn me. And you didn't believe me. I chose her over you. My own brother. His voice broke. I kicked you out. I called you a liar. I almost lost you forever because I was too proud to admit I might be wrong. Marcus, you were protecting your marriage. I understand. I was protecting a lie. And I hurt you in the process. He reached for my hand. Can you forgive me? There's nothing to forgive. We're family. That's what matters. What about Sophie? Is she okay? She's fine. Scared, confused, but fine. She's been asking about you. I want to see her. I want to apologize to both of you. You don't need to apologize for being a victim. I need to apologize for not trusting you, for choosing strangers over family, for almost getting us all killed because I was too stubborn to listen. A nurse came in to check Marcus's vitals, and I stepped out into the hallway. Through the window, I could see the city stretching out below us. Somewhere out there, David Kim was probably being arrested. Somewhere else, Vanessa was lying in a hospital bed, her perfect plan in ruins. But we were alive. All of us. Broken, traumatized, but alive. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophie. "How's Marcus? Can I see him?" I smiled and typed back. "He's awake and asking for you. Come on up." As I waited for Sophie to arrive, I thought about everything we'd been through. The accident that killed our parents. The fire that destroyed our apartment. The injury that cost me my job. The betrayal that almost cost us our lives. We'd survived it all. Not unscathed, but together. And maybe that was enough. Chapter 10. Picking up the pieces. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in Marcus's kitchen, our kitchen now, reading the morning news on my laptop. The headline read, "Local attorney and wife charged in multi-million-dollar embezzlement scheme." The article detailed how David Kim and Vanessa Chun had systematically stolen from Marcus's clients over an 18-month period, using forged documents and David's position as a partner to legitimize the fraud. The total amount stolen was over $8 million from 12 different clients. David had been arrested without incident at his office. He'd confessed within hours, apparently hoping for a plea deal. Vanessa had been charged from her hospital bed, where she was still recovering from her head injury. "Any word on when the trial starts?" Sophie asked, coming into the kitchen with her backpack. She was getting ready for school, the same school she'd been attending before everything fell apart. Marcus had insisted she stay enrolled, even though it meant a longer commute from our temporary apartment. David's trial is set for next month. Vanessa's will probably be delayed until she's medically cleared. "Do you think they'll go to prison?" "David definitely will. Vanessa, depends on how much brain damage she sustained from the fall." Sophie poured herself a glass of orange juice. "Is that bad? That I hope she doesn't get off easy because of her injury." "No, sweetheart. It's human. She tried to kill us." "She tried to kill our family," Sophie corrected. "That's worse." Marcus walked in, looking better than he had in weeks. The doctors had cleared him to return to work part-time, though his law practice was still in chaos. Most of his clients had fled after the scandal broke, and he was facing multiple lawsuits from people who'd lost money in the scheme. "Morning," he said, pouring coffee. "Jake, I got a call from the insurance company yesterday. They're going to cover most of the client losses." "That's good news." "It is. But it also means I'll probably have to sell the house to cover the deductible and legal fees." Sophie looked up from her juice. "We're going to lose the house?" "Maybe. Probably." Marcus sat down across from us. "I'm sorry, sophomore. I know you love it here." "It's okay," she said, but I could see the disappointment in her eyes. "We've lived in worse places." "Actually," I said, "I might have some good news on that front." They both looked at me expectantly. "I got a job offer yesterday. Construction foreman for a new development project. Good pay, steady work for at least 2 years." Marcus smiled. "Jake, that's fantastic. Where's the project?" "About 20 minutes from here. Close enough that Sophie could stay in the same school district. And close enough that we could all stay together," Sophie added hopefully. "If Marcus wants us to," I said. "I know we've been through a lot, and maybe you need space to rebuild your life." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "You know what I realized while I was lying in that hospital bed?" "What?" "That I spent 2 years trying to build a perfect life. Perfect house, perfect wife, perfect career. And it was all fake. The only real thing I had was family, and I almost threw it away because I was too proud to admit I might be wrong." He looked at both of us. "I don't want space. I want my family. I want us to figure out how to move forward together. Even if it means living in a smaller place?" Sophie asked. "Even if it means living in a cardboard box. As long as we're together." Sophie grinned and hugged him. "I love you, Marcus." "I love you too, kiddo." I felt something loosen in my chest, a tension I'd been carrying for months without realizing it. We were going to be okay. Different than before, scarred by what we'd been through, but okay. "There's something else," I said. "The job comes with a signing bonus. Enough for a down payment on a house." "Jake, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. You opened your home to us when we had nowhere else to go. You gave Sophie stability when she needed it most. You're my brother, and this is what family does. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve this. After everything I put you through. You deserve a second chance. We all do. My phone rang. It was Detective Martinez. Mr. Chin? I have some news about the case. Good news or bad news? Good news. We've recovered most of the stolen money. David Kim gave us the account information as part of his plea agreement. How much? About 7.2 million. The rest was spent on cars, jewelry, and other assets that we're still tracking down. I felt a wave of relief. What does that mean for Marcus? It means the civil lawsuits will probably be dropped. The clients will get their money back, and your brother won't be financially ruined. And the criminal charges against Marcus? Officially dropped as of this morning. The DA's office has concluded that he was a victim, not a perpetrator. I hung up and shared the news with Marcus and Sophie. Marcus actually started crying, tears of relief and gratitude and exhaustion. It's over, he said. It's really over. The legal part is over, I corrected. The healing part is just beginning. Sophie checked her watch. I need to get to school. But tonight, can we order pizza and watch movies? Like we used to. Absolutely, Marcus said. But I get to pick the first movie. As long as it's not another legal thriller, Sophie said. I've had enough courtroom drama for one lifetime. After Sophie left for school, Marcus and I sat in comfortable silence for a while. Through the kitchen window, I could see the guest house where this whole nightmare had started. Where I'd first seen Vanessa with the man I'd thought was Sterling. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't seen them that night? Marcus asked. Every day. They would have finished stealing the money, framed you for the crimes, and disappeared. You'd be in prison right now. And you and Sophie would be alone. We've been alone before. We would have survived. But you shouldn't have had to. You should have had family to support you. I looked at my brother, really looked at him. The past few weeks had aged him, but they'd also changed him in deeper ways. The arrogance was gone, replaced by humility. The distance was gone, replaced by genuine connection. We have family now, I said. That's what matters. Jake, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Okay. Do you think you'll ever be able to trust my judgment again? After everything that happened. I thought about it. I think I'll trust you to learn from your mistakes. I think I'll trust you to listen when I'm worried about something. I think I'll trust you to put family first. And if I mess up again, then we'll deal with it together. That's what families do. Marcus nodded. I want to make some changes. To how I practice law, how I handle money, how I make decisions about the people in my life. What kind of changes? No more solo decisions about major things. No more keeping family at arm's length to protect my professional image. No more assuming I know better than everyone else. That sounds like a good start. I want you to be my partner. I stared at him. What? In the law practice. I need someone I can trust completely, someone who will tell me the truth even when I don't want to hear it. Someone who will watch my back. Marcus, I'm not a lawyer. You don't need to be. I need a business manager, someone to handle the financial side while I focus on the legal work. Someone to make sure I never get taken advantage of again. I don't know anything about running a law practice. You know about construction, about managing projects and people and budgets. You know about taking care of family. That's exactly what I need. I thought about the job offer I'd received, the steady paycheck and familiar work. Then I thought about working with Marcus, rebuilding his practice together, making sure nothing like this ever happened again. What about Sophie? She needs stability. She'll have it. We'll make sure of it. Together. I looked around the kitchen where we'd almost lost everything, where Vanessa had tried to destroy us all. But we were still here. Still fighting. Still family. Okay, I said. Let's do it. Marcus smiled. The first genuine smile I'd seen from him in weeks. Partners. Partners. We shook hands across the kitchen table, sealing a deal that was about much more than business. It was about trust, about second chances, about choosing family over everything else. Outside, the sun was shining through the windows, casting long shadows across the floor. But for the first time in months, those shadows didn't feel threatening. They felt like the promise of a new day, a fresh start, a chance to build something real and lasting. We'd survived the worst that life could throw at us. Now it was time to see what we could build together. Epilogue 6 months later. I stood in the doorway of our new office, watching Marcus explain a case to a client. The practice was smaller now, more selective, but it was honest. Every document was double-checked, every financial transaction was transparent, and every major decision was made by both of us together. Sophie burst through the front door, still in her school uniform but grinning from ear to ear. "I got in," she announced. "Full scholarship to State University." Marcus jumped up from his desk and swept her into a hug. "Sophie, that's incredible. The essay about overcoming family trauma really sealed the deal," she said. "Turns out almost getting murdered by your sister-in-law makes for compelling college application material." "Don't joke about that," I said, but I was smiling too. "I'm not joking. I'm celebrating. We survived something that should have destroyed us, and instead it made us stronger." She was right. The past 6 months had been difficult. Therapy sessions, legal proceedings, financial stress, and the constant work of rebuilding trust. But we'd done it together as a family. Marcus had sold the mansion and bought a smaller house in a good school district. I'd moved in officially, taking the master bedroom while Marcus took the smaller room. Sophie had the biggest room because, as Marcus said, teenagers need space to be dramatic. The law practice was slowly rebuilding its reputation. Marcus had implemented new safeguards, new procedures, new levels of transparency that made fraud nearly impossible. Clients were starting to trust him again. And I discovered I actually enjoyed the business side of law. Managing cases, handling finances, dealing with clients. It turned out my construction experience translated well to running a professional practice. "There's something else," Sophie said, pulling an envelope from her backpack. "I got a letter from Vanessa." Marcus and I both tensed. Vanessa had been sentenced to 15 years in prison after pleading guilty to embezzlement, conspiracy, and attempted murder. David had gotten 12 years. We hadn't heard from either of them since the sentencing. "What does it say?" Marcus asked carefully. Sophie opened the envelope and read silently for a moment. "She says she's sorry. That she never meant for things to go as far as they did. That she hopes someday we can forgive her." "How do you feel about that?" I asked. Sophie folded the letter back up. "I feel like she's still trying to manipulate us. Even from prison." "Probably," Marcus agreed. "Vanessa was very good at saying what people wanted to hear." "The thing is," Sophie continued, "I don't need her apology. I don't need her to be sorry. I need her to stay away from our family forever." "She will," I said. 15 years is a long time. And after that, she'll be on parole with restrictions." "Good." Sophie threw the letter in the trash. "I'm done thinking about her. I want to focus on the future." "Speaking of the future," Marcus said, "I have some news too." Sophie and I looked at him expectantly. "I've been asked to speak at the State Bar Association conference next month. About ethics in law practice, about the warning signs of fraud, about the importance of family support systems." "That's amazing," I said. "You're going to help other lawyers avoid what happened to you." "We're going to help them," Marcus corrected. "They want both of us to speak. The brother who saw the warning signs and the lawyer who learned to listen." I felt a surge of pride. 6 months ago, I'd been an unemployed construction worker living in my brother's guest house. Now I was a business partner, a public speaker, a success story. "There's one more thing," Marcus said, looking nervous. "I've been thinking about what you said, Sophie. About focusing on the future. Yeah, I want to start dating again. Eventually. When I'm ready." Sophie and I exchanged glances. This was the first time Marcus had mentioned dating since Vanessa's arrest. "How do you feel about that?" Sophie asked. "Terrified," Marcus admitted. "How do I trust someone again? How do I know they're not just after my money or my connections?" "You don't," I said. "But you also can't let fear keep you from living." "Besides," Sophie added, "you have us now. We'll help you figure out who's trustworthy and who's not." "You want to screen my dates?" "Absolutely. Jake and I have excellent instincts about people. We spotted Vanessa's lies eventually." "Eventually being the key word," Marcus said dryly. "Better late than never," I said. "And next time, we'll know what to look for." Marcus smiled. "Next time, I'll listen when you tell me something's wrong." "Promise." "Promise." We stood there in the office, the three of us, looking at each other with the kind of understanding that only comes from surviving something terrible together. We weren't the same people we'd been 6 months ago. We were stronger, wiser, more connected. "You know what?" Sophie said. "I think we should celebrate. All of it. My scholarship, Marcus's speaking engagement, Jake's success as a business partner, our survival as a family." "What did you have in mind?" I asked. "Dinner at that fancy restaurant downtown. The one with the steaks that cost more than my monthly allowance." Sophie, that place is incredibly expensive, Marcus protested. So, we can afford it now. And we deserve it. She grinned. Besides, it's not about the money. It's about celebrating how far we've come. She was right. 6 months ago, we'd been broken, scattered, barely holding together. Now we were a team, a family, a success story. Okay, Marcus said. But I'm paying. We're paying, I corrected. Partners, remember? Fine. We're paying. But Sophie's buying her own dessert. Deal, Sophie laughed. As we locked up the office and walked to the car, I thought about everything we'd been through. The betrayal, the fear, the near-death experience, the long road to recovery. It had been the worst period of our lives, but it had also brought us closer together than we'd ever been. We'd learned that family isn't just about blood or marriage or legal documents. It's about choosing to stand by each other when everything falls apart. It's about trusting each other enough to tell hard truths. It's about fighting for each other even when the odds are impossible. Vanessa and David had tried to destroy us by exploiting our trust, our love, our willingness to believe the best in people. But in the end, those same qualities had saved us. Because when everything else fell away, we still had each other. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. As we drove toward the restaurant, Sophie chattering excitedly about college plans and Marcus talking about new cases, I realized something important. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were thriving. The nightmare was over. The healing was complete. And the future, our future together as a family, was just beginning. Sometimes the people who try to destroy you end up making you stronger than you ever imagined possible. Sometimes the worst betrayal leads to the deepest trust. Sometimes losing everything helps you realize what really matters. We'd learned all of that the hard way, but we'd learned it together. And that made all the difference. The end. When you choose a liar over blood, you lose everything that matters. But when you choose family over everything else, you gain something worth more than money, more than success, more than the perfect life you thought you wanted. You gain the unbreakable bond of people who've survived the worst together and come out stronger on the other side. If you love this story, kindly hit the subscribe button, also like and share. Thanks for your listening time.